The job market has been falling off a cliff. The entire labor market is in dire straits. We haven't seen anything like this since the Great Depression of the 1930s. There's kind of a new class system that's emerged. We've got one class are the essential workers. This is about 30% of the workforce now. These are people who are hospital workers, warehouses, and in delivery services. They are also working very hard, often without adequate protective gear. They're sanitary workers, they're grocery workers, workers in pharmacies. Now, all of these people are essential, and some of these jobs are minimum wage jobs. They ought to be getting hazard pay. They ought to be getting time off. They ought to be getting paid sick leave. There ought to be kind of a Bill of Rights for essential workers. And some members of Congress are beginning to look at this and work on this, but this is a high priority. These essential workers are not being adequately protected. They need adequate protective gear. Another 30% of the workforce, those are people who are unemployed, who do not have a paycheck. But a huge number of Americans, anywhere from 75 to 80% by most polls, are working paycheck to paycheck. So if they're not getting a paycheck, these people are simply not able to maintain their livelihoods. They can't keep a roof over their heads. They can't feed their families. This is a gigantic problem. And the $1,200 that Congress has provided per person, per adult, it just doesn't hack it. It's nowhere near enough. The $600 in additional money that people are getting out of unemployment insurance, well, that would be nice if they had it. Many of you were trying to get through to unemployment insurance offices. You can't get through. The lines are jammed. The web pages are crashing. I'm not blaming unemployment offices. This was all anticipated because you can't push that much money through the unemployment insurance system at that speed and expect not to have huge problems unless you at the same time are providing a lot more money for the states to actually administer unemployment insurance. The best idea I've heard comes out of Representative Jayapal.
My Paycheck Guarantee Act proposal, which essentially is taking what we've seen work in places like Germany and Denmark and France and stanching the flow of mass unemployment. So the Paycheck Guarantee Act says that the federal government, using a very simplified, streamlined approach of the Treasury Department, taking IRS filings that any business of any size has filed and guaranteeing paychecks, providing 100% of salaries up to $100,000 plus some maintenance costs for the business to pay for their rent and their utilities, and then delivering that payment in a 3-month lump sum payment right up front.
And also, interestingly, Senator Josh Hawley, they're both talking about the same kind of thing, which is a direct money coming directly from the Treasury to pay the payrolls of companies, small businesses, not through the banks. That's one of the problems with the payroll protection.
The Paycheck Protection Program has been incredibly successful. Paycheck Protection Program, you've seen what's gone on there. It's incredible, actually. Very successful, incredibly successful the way it's going. Paycheck Protection Program.
They had to go through a kind of lending system, and then the loans would be paid back. But no, that's too complicated, and the banks never get it right. And the banks are also trying to favor their own customers. No, that system is not working. What we need to do is actually make direct payments from the Treasury to businesses to keep people on the payrolls. That's critical. I mean, send them home for their own personal protection. Yes, people need to be locked down, but get the payrolls, maintain those payrolls, and do it direct deposit the same way the Treasury. For small businesses, the Treasury is dealing with small businesses all the time in terms of taxes and other related issues. Just do it in terms of direct payments. It should be simple. Well, everything should be simple. It's not simple, particularly when you've got an incompetent administration. It's enough to have a pandemic. That would be worse enough, but to have a pandemic in the time of Trump is a deep, deep misfortune. All of you, please stay well, stay safe, honor our workers, our essential workers, work for a more just and caring and decent society. Thank you. See you next week.